But that's, if you're drawing bugs, you just kind of make a little bitty nose right here like that, and then these big cheeks. And big teeth like so. Just comes out of there. It's easy, really. It's just a, if you want to get really lavish, you can give me 3 whiskers. Now, the best thing to do if you learn how to draw a carrot, he's already got a bite of it, you see, in there. So you draw a carrot. So if you learn how to draw a carrot, then you just hook a rabbit onto it. You got Bugs Bunny, you see. Carrots are easy to draw. Snaps will. So that's the main thing about bugs. I think you were, according to the cue cards, you're going to ask me next about the difference in carrots.
I didn't have to come all the way to Columbus to be insulted. Let me see here. What's this one saying? What about the coyote and the roadrunner?
Well, the thing is about the character. Oh, we always had bugs. If you remember, anybody that's ever seen any Bugs Bunny's knows, and I guess some of you have, the thing is that Bugs is usually in a place where you'd normally find a basic rabbit, you know, in a pet store, in a carrot patch or someplace. And somebody comes along and tries to do him in, or take his foot off, and for a good luck charm. You know, if you have a rabbit's foot that's a good luck charm, it's well to remember, probably wasn't very good luck for the rabbit, right? A lot of one-legged rabbits walking around because of people have rabbit farms where they raise rabbit feet for the market.
Chuck, tell us a little bit about this new movie you're doing. It's called The Great American Chase.
How's that?
Great.
Now, having learned how to draw a carrot, you must now learn how to draw a rabbit's home.
A hole in the ground.
Snap. That's all there is to it. You make a few lines down there like that, makes a hole. That's where he lives. Well, we've put together about 30 years, 25 years of pictures I made into a big feature, and we've done about 20 minutes of new animation. And I think it's a pretty good picture. It comes out to about 2 minutes a year of my stuff. I figure anybody can do 2 minutes right in any given year. So that's really what I did. And so we put it together. It's opening next week, I believe, here in Columbus. And
was the new animation meant to resemble in character the old animation?
Oh, yes. So it's what we call full animation. That is animation. Do you want me to draw something else?
Oh, sure. Draw anything.
Or as long as we're talking, I will be drawing.
You're talking about full animation.
Yeah.
The old original Looney Tunes cartoons and those things.
That's
what
right.
do you think about the new cartoons that are on Saturday mornings?
Oh, dear. Where's that sick bag?
I gotta agree with you. I don't know if it's because I've grown up or what, but I don't think they're near as funny as the old ones were.
Well, I'm glad I brought you along. I might just draw Daffy. With Daffy, you start with a neck.
All right.
Daffy is despicable.
Yeah, despicable. Or,
Despicable.
yeah, I've never seen anybody so despicable in all my life. Actually, it was a producer we worked for that had had that kind of a voice. And he'd come back there where we were working, and he'd say, "What you working on, fellas?" And we'd say, "Oh, I'm working on Porky." He's up for boys. He put in lots of jokes. And he'd say, "I'm off to the races." And so one day, one of the writers said, "Hey, wouldn't that make a good voice for a character?" Because Daffy at that time had a different kind of a voice completely. So they put him on Daffy. They put him on, poor guy, little cowardly duck.
Why does he have that ring around his neck? I always wondered.
Because he's a mallard. Good heavens, what's the matter with you?
Chuck.
You promised me if I brought you out tonight that you would behave yourself.
But I know. You can't take me anywhere. I hate to cut this short. We're running out of time. Chuck, you can finish that for me, though, and sign that to me if you don't mind. Daffy could. I wouldn't mind that. Thanks for being with us. Chuck Jones.
I'm sorry. Stay in script.
Well, well, well. Here we go again, folks. I got to try and find out. Our next guest has written a fascinating new book, and I'm curious to see what everybody here thinks about what the kind of things they'd like to have out of their life. You know, we've got a whole audience full of young people here, and a lot of them are starting to make plans for the future and think about the things they want to do, what they'd like for a career. TJ, real quickly, just name 3 things that you'd like to have.
I'd like to be the president.
That's a little thing.
Okay. I like $1 million.
Oh, yeah. $1 million. All right.
And 3 more wishes.
And 3 more wishes. That's a good thing. Well, today, we're delighted to have with us our very special guest, a lady who has the clues for how to get whatever you want out of life. Let's hear it for noted author and psychologist, Dr. Joyce Brothers. Dr. Brothers, welcome to Bananaz. Nice to have you with us. Anyway, you can get that thing hooked up. Okay.
I discoed a button off. We were discoing backstage.
You were discoing and you lost a button?
Why should everybody just have all the fun out here?
Well, I agree with you. I'm glad you got out here and danced. See, now after we play the next dance, somebody's going to come back there and ask you to dance. In fact, we'll make it a lady's choice, and you can ask somebody to dance. How's that?
Well, I know who I'd choose.
Oh, boy. Thank you. Before we get started, I have something I've got to ask you about. You know, recently a survey was conducted, and teenagers and high school students were asked to name their 3 favorite people, heroes, I guess, or their 3 idols. Do you know that I think number 1 was John Glenn, number 2 was Dr. Billy Graham, and number 3 was Dr. Joyce Brothers?
Thank you all very much. That is a lovely thing, and I thank everybody for their enthusiasm. My daughter would say, I thank you from my bottom to my heart.
From your bottom to your heart. Do you think it's really possible to get anything out of life that you want?
I think if you're motivated, if you try, I think you can. I really do. You may not get the most of something, but I think you can get enough satisfaction out of life so that your life is a good life and a pleasant life, and one that you'd like to live over given a chance, yes.
A lot of people are asked that, I think. If you had it to do over again, would you do things the same way? And I think if you made all the right, you never know what the right choices are, but if you think big in the first place, chances are you'd be happy to live it over again, don't you think?
I think if you think dreams and fill your dreams, I think the saddest thing is when someone's told, no, you can't do that, or don't be a dreamer, or don't, why knock your head against the wall? You know, Abraham Lincoln lost 10 times in office, running for office. Now, suppose somebody said to me, only won twice. One was a very small election. And suppose somebody said along the way, okay, Abe, 10 times you've lost, face it, be realistic. We would have lost a great deal.
Yeah, we sure would have. Yeah, normally in our audience, I think I mentioned this before, we have a purely teenage audience. But today, in honor of your visit in particular, we've asked some of the parents to join us. And I think what we got to do is go out to the audience and get some questions. I know they're all dying to ask you a lot of questions. Are you ready for that?
Sure.
Okay. And, boy, I don't even know where to start. But I see a lady back here, and she looks like as good a place to start as any. What's your name, ma'am?
Lorraine Barrow. What do you feel is a good age to allow kids to start dating?
I think it's up to the maturity of the young person. It's different for every child. And I think that it's very helpful if the mothers in a community and the fathers get together and with their teenagers and work out a starting date for makeup, a starting date for dating, so that the teenager can't play you against other mothers and other fathers. I mean, it's everybody else is doing it is the usual thing. And if you know that you've got a kind of code for the community, that everyone starts at this age. Now, some won't be able to keep up because it's a little early for them, but at least you have some kind of guideline so that each one doesn't feel pressured by what everybody else is doing. But I don't think you can say a hard and fast rule. And most dating takes place in a kind of a sequence. You go to the movies in a group, you do things in a group, and then you begin your individual dating. And you as a mother know kind of in a gut feeling when your youngster's able to handle it, when they're not.
Is that your daughter sitting next to you? Both of them? I'm just curious. When did she say it was okay for you to start dating, or has she?
I think my mom thinks I'm mature enough to start dating.
Are you putting her on the spot on TV? Is that what you...
I'm trying not to.
Okay, more questions. Here's one right down here. This is Linda Rexroad's mother, and she presented me with the flower today, by the way.
Dr. Joyce Brothers, how do you feel about teenagers getting married?
The statistics show that teenage marriages have a very high possibility of breaking up. That is, 1 marriage in 3 in the community at large breaks up, but 50% of the teenage marriages end in divorce. Now, this is a statistical probability, and statistics can be misleading. The statistics of lightning striking Guernsey cows is 0.005%, but it's 100% for the cow that's struck. So that every once in a while you find teenagers who fall in love very early, and they're very mature, and they make splendid lifetime marriages. So you cannot say, all right, no way will I countenance a teenage marriage. But you do have to be pretty sure that you go into it very, very carefully because of the very high risks. There are higher risks if the young people quit school. There are higher risks if there's not enough money to complete education, or if they have to stop out. It's very hard to go back again once they stop out of their education. And there are also high risks if the parents disapprove of the other partner, because that kind of pressure can make it pretty difficult to make a good marriage work.
I agree with you.
I'd like to find out just from a teenager. In fact, I'm going to ask you, since you have your hand up anyway, what do you think about teenagers getting married?
It depends on, like, if they're mature enough to get married, then they should. If they're like little kiddies going around just dating other people, then they just go to one and say they want to get married. They shouldn't do that.
Yeah. And I think, too, if 2 people are in love, it doesn't hurt them to wait, because that love will continue.
Yeah.
If they can't wait a couple of months to get married, then you have some real worry about, their ability to sustain any love over a long period of time.
Dr. Brothers, you dedicated a large portion of your book to love and to that whole situation. Do you believe that there's really only one true love in a person's life?
No, there isn't. And it's been estimated that every man has about 50,000 right women, and every woman... but every woman has 50,000 right men, too.
Do you think that all people are capable of loving?
No, I think that there are some people who are not capable of loving. We don't come into the world able to love. We learn love. We learn love from our parents, from the way we are loved. And so there are some people who have never been loved, who don't know how to love. And there are also some people who are so self-satisfied that there isn't any room for love, for any doubts or any love at all. There's no room for anyone except the person and his or her mirror.
What do you think about young people living together?
Well, a lot of young people are living together before marriage to see if they're sexually compatible. But actually, they could probably learn more about their compatibility if they forgot about the sex and borrowed somebody's 3-year-old kid.
That's when you find out, huh, when you get a kid.
I do want to answer your question seriously. The living together arrangements have gone on long enough so that we have some studies. And we find that people who live together before marriage have no more chance of having a better marriage than people who do not live together before marriage. There is no relationship. There isn't even a negative relationship where if you live together before marriage, you're going to have a worse marriage. It's an entirely different universe. Marriage means I'm going to commit myself to you. Everything is out, no holes barred, all the cards are on the table. In the eyes of everyone, in the eyes of God, I am responsible for you for the rest of our lives. That is a different kind of commitment, no matter how young people talk about, oh, it's only a little piece of paper. It is so different that, if you remember, we did some experiments on Earth to see what weightlessness would be like for astronauts, and we never really got any answers. It was only when we got out in space that we got the answers to what weightlessness would be like. And the same thing is true of marriage. Until you've got a marriage, you don't have a trial anything. All you have is a living together. Another study shows that 2 people who are going together, planning to get married, have a greater probability of marrying each other than 2 people who are living together. It doesn't mean that the living together people don't eventually marry, but they tend to go on a little living together merry-go-round. They live together with someone. They don't solve their problems because they figure, why go through all that hassle? They postpone the solutions, they postpone the arrangements, they postpone the compromises, and the relationship breaks up. They go on to another until they finally live together with someone they marry. But in terms of probability, you have more chance of marrying that person if you're just going together planning to marry than moving in with your pots and pans.
That's unusual. That surprises me. I'd like to see what, if we have any parents out here who have a view on that. In fact, I'm going to ask this little lady's mother right here, because I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you think about that?
I agree with her 100%. I have 3 daughters, and I wouldn't want them to do that. But if they did, I wouldn't be anything I could do about it. But I agree with you that they want a good marriage, they should get married and have a good marriage.
When a young woman moves in with a man, she gives up a chance to have a baby that is anything but an illegitimate baby. She gives up a great deal. And I think it ought to be with a great deal of thought ahead of time. And we teach our youngsters, you're absolutely right, there would be nothing you could do about it if that's what your daughters decided. The time when you teach young people to make decisions is when they're very little all the way up, to make reasonable decisions that are right for them. Now, for some people, living together is right for them, but at least you want your daughters to make it on the basis of thought, on the basis of realization of what's ahead for them.
Let's see if we have some more questions here. I know we do. I'm going to
we
go
got
down
a lot
here.
of, my goodness.
Yes, here we go. What's your name?
Kelly Dorr. This is a question that's been bugging me. My parents, I've always considered them, they're up with the times, in fashion and everything. And like we're in organizations where there's dances, and my parents go and they disco and everything. But then when I'm out with my parents or something, we're having a good time, my friends will come up to me and they'll tease me. Because they always think of their parents as old ladies and old men, And I don't think of my parents like that way. What do you think I should say to these people?
There's a very old joke, which isn't terribly funny, but I think it makes an important point, about a woman psychologist who's in an elevator with a male colleague. And a man gets on, and between floors, he pinches the woman psychologist and walks off. And the male says to his female colleague, "Why didn't you say something?" And the woman psychologist said, "That's his problem." So if you keep that in mind with your friends, if they object to your parents, that's their problem. You've got with it good parents.
Do you think that ever causes a problem in the relationship between teenagers and their parents if their parents try too hard to be like the kids rather than setting that traditional role, setting that example in the traditional role?
It depends. I think you're right. If parents are trying to be youngsters, then I think it's wrong. But dancing or having a good time isn't the province of the young. It's the province of everybody. So it's trying to be what you're not that is disturbing. That is, if parents are trying to be teenagers, they cannot do it except by looking very, very silly. But if they're trying to live their lives to the fullest, to enjoy it, why shouldn't they? I think teenagers tend to be embarrassed by their parents no matter what their parents do. If their parents are square, it's embarrassing. If their parents are with it, it's embarrassing. Because young people have to pull back. The more they love their parents, the more they have to pull back so that they don't become pale carbon copies of their parents. And after a while, after they have developed their own personalities, then they come around to a very close approximation of what their parents feel and believe. But it takes a long, long time. I'm sure you're all familiar with the old saw about, I couldn't understand when I was age 18 how I had such dumb parents, and at 21 I couldn't understand how they got so smart so fast.
There's another question for you. What's your name?
Yeah, I'm Marty Jones. People call me a dreamer because I'm always, know what I'm going to do in the future and everything. And do you think that's wrong? And do you think that some of the most successful people in the world have been dreamers with a great imagination and everything?
I think the most successful people have been dreamers, but dreamers who bring the dream to reality. It's wonderful to dream, and it's wonderful to have a goal, but you can't let that dream stand in the way of action. As long as your actions are aimed toward fulfilling that dream, then the dream is the most creative thing you can do. Use your dream to rehearse what you will do and then go and do it.